Hey, we are back. My name is Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster. Yes, welcome back, version 2.0. Let's get into it.
Sexy intro, rebranding. We can
Very
actually
well done.
say the name of our show now.
Yeah, okay, you break the ice here.
C9K. That's what we are now. I did it.
Yeah, version
2.0.
2.0.
episodes, having never said our name of our show. The show that shall not be named. Wow, now we're a little bit more family friendly.
Definitely, yes. For those new to the show, Rebrand version 2.0. You can go back at the previous episodes and check out, over 50 episodes that we've done together. If you're new, hit that little notification bell. You'll let us know when we go live, especially when I learn how to spell notification properly. In a rush.
I just noticed that.
Yeah. So again, it is a mess, and we're very happy to be back post Cubecon. Want to kick it off, I think, with our Cubecon notes. Steve, you were there live.
I was. You weren't there, man. I was definitely there, and it was. I'd say, what do you want to say? The excitement was palpable. Let's say that. I would probably say the whole thing could have been a complete freaking disaster, and everybody would have been running around going, "Yay, Kubecon, yay!" That's how it felt. And plus, the fact that it was Valencia and it was like a perfect 24 degrees and sunny every single day also helped.
Yeah.
So that was quite cool. I just think that the people vibe, let me give you that. The people vibe was good. And I even did I think I have my favorite talk we can talk about in a second. I didn't get a chance because I was kind of working to see, we did our top 5 picks, right? Like a month ago. I got to see one of them. No, 2 of the 5. But I mean, that's not great. But nevertheless, that hallway track thing that everybody talks about, where it's like you just meet random people, it was almost designed so that you had to run into everybody at some point. It was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was a little bit jealous just being at the Cubecon online for the past year. You get those hallway tracks and you're in Slack, and that's where everybody's posting, and that was silent. Like the Slack channel was noticeably silent this year. And so you're missing that interaction. So you're just basically clicking on videos, and I'm like, why don't I do this on YouTube in 2 weeks? So that was, let's just say I envy you. I missed out, and I hope to see everybody in Detroit. It's not going to be as warm, I think, in October.
Are you going?
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
All right, excellent. Hey, that will mean we'll be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
That'll be weird.
And we will have a show in 2 weeks on Wednesday. Same place, same time.
We will wait. Is it when
Wednesday,
I'm
Tuesday?
there?
Yeah.
No, Tuesday. We have to do Tuesday because I think I'm leaving Wednesday.
Tuesday.
It'll be a weird time. It'll be a really weird time that we're gonna have because we'll talk about it at the end. But yes, you're gonna have a live show where we'll both be in the same place.
Yeah, and I think that wraps up all of our general stuff. Get into general news.
Let's do it. I didn't share my screen. Let me do that. Oh, actually, the thing that's up is the thing I didn't say. That was my happy talk. How do I? Well, I had to stream. Bang. This is the one I just had sitting here. No, what was weird about this, right? This is the node admin privilege escalation in popular Kubernetes platforms. That I thought just the title was a bit ridiculous. But this guy, Yuval, I went to dinner with this guy like the night before his talk. No idea that this was the one I was like excited to go see the next day. And I got there and I'm like, oh shit, dude, I just had dinner with you. Anyway, the idea of trampoline pods, it's the notes are online. They're in the PDF is will be in the show notes here. So you can go check it out. It'll be on YouTube. But the idea was more like finding a path of least resistance through Kubernetes and analyzing RBAC and using that to attack everything else. It was a very well thought out. He's a researcher for Palo Alto. Of course, that's why I ended up having dinner with him. He ended up sitting across from me on a random dinner I did not organize. So that was awesome. But more to it.
General news. That was general news. So that's a great one that you saw. But then this is the other big announcement, I think, that you managed to catch, right?
This is the one I caught. This is the last talk at SecureCon. And it was Liz went up there and basically just crushed it, announcing this new Cilium effort called Tetragon. So we had her come on. We did Cilium. We all know Cilium is like a network, eBPF networking, essentially, a CNI, right? Then they last year kind of announced the service mesh, which made complete logical sense. And then kind of out of nowhere, they've launched Tetragon. And Tetragon is, well, what they say, eBPF-based security, observability, and runtime. You're going to have to go through and read a lot of this to really get an idea of how it works. There's a lot of how to do it. We're going to definitely do a live of this. But what it does is it allows you, without dazzling with scrolling, it allows you to create a set of rules that says if anything inside, say, /etc gets touched by some reason, whatever process is touching it, kill it. Like it does what other methods used to do by instrumenting. It's doing it using eBPF, like using either ptrace or LD preload or any of these kind of mechanisms that are there to run every command through kind of a watchful eye. Those methods kind of suck and are slow and are hard to deploy. This is using a method of deploying eBPF that I hadn't seen before, and it's different than what we did at Aqua using Tracy. It's just a very clever intercept that you can then put rules on. And I thought, this is gonna,
because it's correct me if I'm wrong, it's in the kernel. You're not using kernel modules. It's not an application interacting with the kernel, right? So you're basically getting it as quick as you can.
Super high performance.
Cilium and eBPF have always been known as more of a networking focus. So, process, execution events, system call activity, IO activity. I know the IO activity is going to be huge, especially for runtime enforcement. So that's very cool. It's good to see eBPF growing.
Is stomping. This is quiet little Cilium and Isovalent, I guess, sitting in the back. Oh, we're just a networking thing. It's like, oh no, wait, we're Falco. We're Aqua. We have now the building blocks to build a super high performance security solution. And it's like, you should have seen when she kind of dropped the mic and left, it was like everyone was kind of looking at each other going, oh my God.
Mic drop. Too funny.
Yeah. So
this is the last one of SecureCon?
Yeah, it was like the final talk at SecureCon, like before the real conference had even started, a whole room full of security people just going, whoa.
That's awesome.
So It was awesome. It was awesome. That was definitely in the awesome talks category. That everyone at Kubecon didn't get to see, unless you're on the co-located event.
We're gonna have to test it out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be on the show. Maybe we can get Liz back to do it for us.
Future tool time.
Alrighty, shall we shift gears?
Shifted gears, but keeping the topic pretty much the same because supply chain is.
Is it this one?
Yeah, let's just say it's always on everyone's mind. This one I ran across. I'm going to, was it Software Supply Chain Security Con or Supply Chain Security Con in Austin next month, along with the Open Source Summit. So looking forward to that. And just there's a couple of announcements that are coming up. You're starting to see, I think, other countries recognize this supply chain as a massive thing that they need to invest in. I think we've had a shift from, obviously, let's say black box software applications. It shifted all the way towards everything's open source. And now I think we're getting to the point where it's like, let's kind of take a hybrid approach. I don't know if that's my kind of take on it, Steve. I know that the US government's basically chucking money at tech companies to fix things. So
I think it's no. My hot take on this is just that, like, the governments love it because most tech terminology you say to a politician and they go, huh? But if you say supply chain, suddenly they think, oh, it's like oil or something. I understand. Yes, that we need to secure. I understand that. Here's some money.
Yep.
It's good though. It's interesting.
Now I just need to work on the hardware supply chain.
Yeah. It's easier mandated than done.
And this actually leads perfectly into the next big announcement. This is one of the bigger ones that I saw at Cubecon EU. I thought it was not announcement heavy. I feel like most companies save it for Cubecon North America. But Google will start distributing a security vetted collection of open source software libraries. As soon as this came out, just at Red Hat, we were kind of like, oh, well, that's nice. Welcome to the show. But I do like that they took a different tact. So Red Hat is got a lot of Maven, a lot of Java libraries that it curates and secures. Google focused a little bit more on Go and C code, and they partnered with Sneak for it too. So it's more cloud native, more Kubernetes packages, and I think it's just overall a pretty solid start. Right. Basically, you have a developer, you want to start with some libraries, you can go into this and say, hey, Google's the one curating this. They're doing the security scan. They're making sure that it's updated. They're making sure the community is good. So you're not just pulling random libraries from anywhere. So pretty cool effort. And
awesome. Yeah.
I think it's just going to grow too, right? I mean, right now, I think they started with 550 or something like that.
Yep. 550 major open source libraries.
Yep.
And yeah, there's the tie-in.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they said that they were donating a bunch of money as well or I know Microsoft basically pledged $4 billion into software supply chain and security initiatives. So a lot of money being thrown around.
There it is. 30 million in funding. Yep. Awesome. Hey, all good. What is our next item?
Well, the next item was trampoline pods. But we jumped the gun. So now we're into the crazy stuff.
All right.
As long as you're ready for it.
I'm ready for it.
All right. Yes. I kicked you out just because I wanted to see us again.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. There's let's say a little bit of drama leading up into Cubecon. During Cubecon, there's always dramas. The talk selection is always a little bit of a dramatic thing. Although I will say it is extremely tough to curate let's say an event and make sure that you have a good range of topics, right? I mean, think about it. You're doing supply chain security con. There's only so many products that are in the works right now, right? Unless Endor obviously shows up out of nowhere with a product.
Yeah.
But
so are we going to dive into our WTF section for KubeCon?
Yeah. Right. We talked about all the good stuff. So
yeah, all right. Before we get into the obviously, let's say inflammatory stuff that happened at KubeCon, I'm going to give my personal WTF for KubeCon, and that was the food sucked. There wasn't enough of it. and they gave you tokens to get stuff, but no way to buy anything. Like the whole venue, you couldn't buy more than what they gave you. So if you didn't like it, it was like tough crap. You've got to go out in an area of Valencia that is not particularly awesome. And that bit sucked. And I heard a rumor, now this is unsubstantiated, that the Wi-Fi was awful, right? So if you had a presentation, you needed the conference Wi-Fi, good luck. But if you wanted a private Wi-Fi, and I know some of the stalls near me brought their own, probably like a 4 or 5G router, right?
Mhm.
Somebody went around looking for SSIDs that hadn't been paid for. You had to buy a private one if you wanted your own,
Oh,
and made them shut them down. And I was like, come on. So I heard some really dumb stuff like that. They ran out of water at like 2 p.m. Like all the water things that were like those things where you get little cups, all empty at like 2 on the first day.
mhm.
It became pretty clear that, like, while the event was good and the talks were good and the stuff that I would imagine the CNCF organized was good, the choice of venue and the way the venue cut corners made it one that I would say I would be okay if it never went back to that venue. That's my personal WTF.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's it. Anyway, let's talk about controversial crap.
And just to echo this, that you're not the first person that I've heard that from. There's been a lot of trip reports and things like that mentioning similar issues. Luckily, we had office hours, Red Hat did office hours, and we never ran into that Wi-Fi issue. But I feel like it's almost like taking candy to the movie theater and they actually start enforcing and kicking you out. It's like, really?
Yeah, it did actually feel just like that, you know. Well, and then the second day, you actually, when people were, where are all the supermarkets near the venue, and I'm just going to bring all my own stuff in.
Yeah. Anyways,
Duke, shall we address the elephant in the room?
Sure.
Cat Cosgrove. This was this April 22nd, about a month before. This was that flip flop or the CNCF. I think the CNCF promised that within a month they would not change their decision on masks, and so this happened like a month plus a day. They dropped the mask mandate, and so this happened, and I think by now everybody heard about this, right? This is Cat Cosgrove writing many tweets in a row. Lots of F's, lots of replies.
Just the right thing for the show.
Just the right things, you know. There's an S. If you were uncertain about
how she felt,
yeah, it was pretty clear.
I remember in our internal channels, there was a lot of discussion on announce list and just the different things about, you know, just being up in the air. People had made plans, scheduled testing, and done all this stuff. I understand it's just kind of a weird move by the CNCF. You almost think they would have done the PR effort and just said, "Hey, we're going to follow local rules and regulations."
Well, so let me add
the easiest thing.
Having spoken to somebody involved in the CNCF, they said that CNCF actually did a lot of work to work out whether they should drop it based on a company they paid to say, like, you know, statistical likelihood of COVID, they're going to put measures in place, all that kind of stuff, right? And then they made a decision. It was an educated decision. This is what I've heard. The idea that everyone's made all these plans to go. I mean, the other argument was, how exactly are you getting to this venue through an entire world of not mask mandated travel, country, like everything, and yet somehow the venue's the dangerous thing? I didn't quite understand, because it's a very airy venue. And the measures, man, the measures were amazing, because they were doing like spot checks on fevers. You had to wear a mask, of course, because of this, and then you had to carry ID. Like the actual measures, like even if you went in and out, you had to double check and get a sticker to show you've been checked and you had not got COVID and all this kind of stuff. So I actually thought it was pretty tight what they did. It was a pain in the backside wearing masks all the time, because the security guards actually made you wear them and enforce them. So that was real, man. A lot of people found reasons to eat and drink, and then found it even more annoying that there was no water and food, because that's what they were using, so they didn't have to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. And I think just to follow up too, there's some comments from Cheryl. I think it was.
Well, ding.
Yeah. I feel like we're a YouTube React video now.
Yeah, we are kind of, well, our whole show is a React video, but
Yeah.
This was interesting because it came out the next day and Cheryl just piled on, like, on the mask drama. It's like, if you go through, she says some pretty hardcore stuff, like really kind of trashes the CNCF, like down here, if I can zoom that one in, asked to share my family plans, maternity leave, told it wasn't in the budget. Like, this sounds horrible. And it's like, yikes. So it was weird. It was almost like she was pretty unhappy and then saw a moment where everyone was kicking the CNCF and thought, aha, I'm going to kick the CNCF, except this is pretty legit. So that was pretty bad. And then David Flanagan jumps in and turns in his badge and gun, and he's not an ambassador anymore. It's like, so this was crazy. So there's some weird stuff going on. So this then leads to, shall we do the final one? This is after, or kind of after, during 20th, close to the end. David Flanagan, who's turned in his badge and gun, his ambassadorship is. If it wasn't terminated before, it's terminated now. If you sponsor these events, you're telling the community you're not on their side. Listen, like, wow, what a call to action. That's.
And so when you look at Cheryl was talking about when she needed maternity leave, she didn't get it. And it's, easy to talk the talk and not back it up. I think that's a good data point that I have to go on. But yeah. This is just Twitter thread of nobody saying really much of anything, right? To a certain extent, it's.
Yeah, this is the first response. What am I listening for?
Yeah.
This tweet is literally all the context.
Is this in relation to CNCF mass drama, or has something else transpired? There's so much more. The CNCF are not good stewards of our community. Well, the stories are not mine to tell. We'll hear about them soon. It's like, okay, well, that means nothing.
Yeah, right. Well,
context here. This is a hot take.
Like, whoa. So anyway, it was. I'm still waiting to figure out what this means.
Honestly, for the mask thing, it's such a tough, just political situation. And I think it's actually really, really funny that you have some Americans weighing in on Cubecon EU about how they should or shouldn't do anything. Right? Like,
well, yeah.
I don't know.
Really know what it's like over here. I mean,
yeah, and that's kind of the point. It's like I've had people in California talk to me about COVID lockdowns when I'm in a basement in minus 40 degrees. It's a little different, right? So yeah, let's just say that it could have used a little bit of sensitivity to just say, hey, here are some statistics why you shouldn't do this.
Oh, exactly. It is very much a bit of, I don't know. I would have called it, what do you want to call it? Clout bullying or something. Cause like, I can't go on a big shit fuck fest on Twitter. And then the next day come in and go, hey boss, how's it going? About that Twitter thing you just did. Like, there's no way.
Did she get the code of conduct tweeted at her or something like that?
So that was the other thing, was the reaction by whoever handles their Twitter, right? Which obviously is somebody who went, oh crap, somebody just like railed on us in a really kind of unfair and not really. There were outside of Kat's response, there were many responses about the masks that were very polite and got the message across. It wasn't one person who flipped the mask mandate. There was many people who said it. Yeah, and they were great, right? So they tweeted the code of conduct about basically just openly using profanity and trash talking, and which if you saw the tweet and you saw what she wrote, you'd go, yeah,
pretty valid.
That's pretty valid. And then because like kind of the ambassador, the cult of ambassadorship, backed up Kat, the person panicked and deleted it. And so this is like your intern or whatever it is. Shouldn't have done that, because now it's like, aha, it's like guilt, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, so was it the right call or wasn't it? If it's the right call, you have to stand by it.
Yeah, they should have just left it up because the tweet wasn't that bad. And now You look at further tweets by Kat, and she's claiming, oh, the CNCF weaponized, that was her word, the code of conduct against me. I'm like, no. Well, even if you want to use the word weaponized, that's the point of a code of conduct.
Yeah, somebody has to enforce it.
If you break it, someone has to say, hey, I think you broke that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a nasty tweet. It was just saying, hey, I think, let's stick to the code of conduct here. You have a point. I think that was the first thing, like, yeah, you have a point, but let's play nice. Yeah. And it wasn't. It was like, okay. Anyway.
I think I'm just looking forward to Detroit. I think it's going to be in person. Hopefully we can kind of, I mean, it's going to be hybrid, but I think it's going to be a bigger in-person event. That's my guess.
Are they announcing it as being more hybrid than Valencia, or is it just kind of be the American version of the same?
I don't know. I think that's kind of the issue is there's just still flux over what's going on with COVID.
Right. I don't know about America, but I think anyone I know who wants to go is considering it an in-person event. And let your experience of it sucking online will happen again.
Oof, yeah, online was not fun. And it's just from a social standpoint, online versus hybrid, you don't get both. Like you're either interacting with the person through the computer or you're interacting with the crowd. And so if you're interacting to the computer, the crowd has no energy. And if you're interacting to the crowd, online isn't as fun, right?
Yeah. You just might as well watch them on YouTube later.
As much as I remember talking about the hybrid events 2 years ago when COVID first started, I take that back. It's really not engaging. All right. I think we have one more WTF. We can move off the CNCF and get back to the US doing US things. Life. Oh, I didn't see
this was my WTF that I checked in there. Why is there a third one? No, I think this is the one.
Yeah, Department of Justice coming up.
All right. So this is what made me laugh. Majority of Kubernetes API servers exposed to the public internet. So what's the first thing that gets me here is majority? How do you know? Majority? We found a bunch. We assumed when we found 380,000 open Kubernetes API servers that the total must be around 381,000. And so what? I have no idea. It seemed like
my bank account worked like that. That'd be great.
But nevertheless, outside of the sort of clickbaity title, 380,000 open Kubernetes API servers is a lot. So there's a report here, the Shadow Server report, which sounds super sexy. I like things that are called Shadow, and then it's got some interesting stats on where this all came from. Of course, Sneak's involved. It seems like they're kind of
they've been involved in a lot lately.
Yeah, they're doing some good things out there. Damn them. All right. Oh, Waleed's in. Hi, Waleed. Waleed's watching.
Yeah.
We met for the second time.
Waleed's spot on. Yeah, definitely a learning experience.
Yes.
Speaking of learning experience, the U.S. government's actually learning something.
Oh, hold on. COVID is a hashtag on Twitter where people, if you have COVID, you're tagging so they can see how many people got it.
Whoa, that's interesting.
It went from like 2. I think the original 2, where it was my DSO LG co-host Jessica and her boyfriend. They were the first 2 to get officially COVIDed. And then the first COVID email came out saying 2 people have it. So I WhatsApped her and said, "You're famous."
Too funny.
So that was funny. And then it's at 38, I think. I don't know who it's at now, but they're doing some like good work to make sure we track like what's the result, right? We had 7,000 people.
I to a certain extent, I get it. But then are you getting it at the event? Are you getting it after? Are you getting it on the plane home?
That's a good question. Are you getting it on?
It's always my issue with COVID tracking, but yeah. Anyways, 32 now in the Excel sheet. He's got an Excel sheet. That's too funny. We'll make awesome. Make a little Prometheus Grafana dashboard of the COVID tracker.
I do think so. Actually, that's a good point because like if there hadn't been a mask mandate, that number would be bigger. Like, there's no doubt, right?
I don't know. Hypotheticals.
Yeah.
What if people got crazier after the event because of the masks?
Yeah, I w- I was gonna say I
Because
think
I don't think the
yeah,
events are masked, right? Like the post
the
Cubecon
parties.
events. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely tell you that the ones that we ran were not masked and
Yeah,
they
there
were
you go.
mayhem. So if anybody got all 38, probably got it at our parties. Sorry,
Yeah.
that
Anyways,
was
let's
anyway.
the last one, the last WTF minus this session going going on way too long is the DOJ saying it will no longer prosecute good faith hackers,
Well,
which
that's
is
nice.
yeah, it's great. And also when you have the Department of Justice keeping an eye on this at the federal level, it means you have that. Remember that one weird case? I think it was in like Tennessee or Kentucky where the person pulled the information from the HTML files
Yeah,
from
that's the
their
one. Yeah.
Chrome browser or something like that, and they were trying to get prosecuted. The Department of Justice will seek to stop that practice. So I think it's pretty cool. Now, how they define good faith, that's the interesting one. I'm guessing they probably have some sort of if you have cadence, so like if you hack whoever it is, whatever it is, and you say, hey, this is an issue, check it out, you probably considered good faith.
I guess so. Yeah, there was a good faith was a link, so I clicked it to see if it would go to help me work it out what it was, but probably not so much, just more words and buildings and flags.
Yeah, Supreme Court, which is awesome.
Yeah,
because that's enforceable across the country. So very cool. Hack away. Just tell people about it.
yeah.
This is not legal advice.
That's right. Michael Foster is not a lawyer.
Yeah. Yes, definitely not. All right. What do we have coming up next? I think we're into a lot of big spenders.
We are.
Yes. The big spender, the section where we tell you all about who's spending money where. And there's been a lot of money spending. This one I thought was really cool. So Zip lines up 43 million for like as a concierge for procurement. Basically, they're the intermediary whenever companies want to get bought and sold. And I think it makes sense. You're seeing all these companies with these massive valuations. You want to bring in a company, turn it over quickly, deal with all the regulation. Not bad.
That is pretty meta, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you think about it, like, there's been so many acquisitions now over the last 20 years that everybody who's been through an acquisition now can just go to this company as a consultant and say, "Hey, this is all the stuff that I had to go through."
Yeah,
I don't know. Makes sense.
Please
the valuation's insane, though.
1.2 billion. Well, I mean, imagine if you think about how much money's changing hands during like the fact that we've said this a few times. We added Big Spender to the show, thinking, every couple of weeks we'd have this section, but it's been in every show, and it's like, okay, that we should have started this stupid thing up. Like, geez, writing was on the wall.
Yeah, let's check that out. What that's Series B.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh,
into the world.
That is crazy.
Yeah, well done, you guys.
Yeah, speaking of, well, not really Series B, but a buyout. Docker bought Tilt.
Docker bought Tilt. Tilt is, I popped some Tilt up here just in case you don't know what it is. A toolkit for fixing the pains of microservice development. Have we used Tilt? Should we put it on the show? Maybe, right?
Well, yeah, we have never used them. Tilt will remain open source. It's great. We'll be responding to issues. They have a community Slack channel. From what I gathered, it takes developer workflows, so like people who use scripts, all that stuff, and tries to containerize them and basically fix some of the pains of just making that transition. So Docker, fresh off of that kind of big, they had a big windfall. They had some good revenue, I think, in the last couple quarters, and they're looking to spend some money. So
pretty cool, man. And they got, I can't remember, they got some investment just before we shut down version 1, and I can't remember what it was. But with investment often comes a strategy and an acquisition of some sort, doesn't it? And I guess this is it. It's pretty cool, or the beginning of one. More things to come, possibly.
And now we have another big spender, but it kind of happened yesterday. I think everybody's watching might have seen this.
Get ready.
Boom, boom,
Whoa.
boom.
May 26th. That's huge.
So there was rumors about this Broadcom deal, I think earlier in this week. I think I saw it Monday, Tuesday, and I pinged you about it.
Yeah.
Hey, watch out for this. This might be coming through. And yeah, Broadcom to acquire VMware for 61 billion. And it's probably going to end up being around 70 billion when you think about, void leases or like contracts that they have to break, right? Different things with VMware, payouts, different stock grants and all that stuff. It'll probably be a little bit bigger. It's one of the biggest acquisitions, I think, to date. It might be the biggest.
It is a monster.
Yeah.
It's
61
crazy.
billion.
What's your hot take? What's going to happen to VMware?
Not my hot take. There was a Forrester write-up. Basically kind of looked at Broadcom and how they handled the last acquisitions. Marketing is probably going to get slashed. Engineering will stay on. They'll get absorbed, and they're going to milk the cash cow of VMware. That seems to be the path forward. I think if you start to see if Broadcom turns around and decides, hey, we're going to invest in the container space, we're going to invest in Tanzu, we're going to invest in Carbon Black and all that stuff, then you might be like, oh, maybe they want to grow that section. But I mean, Joe Bida literally just had a tweet like whelp ... So when you have one of the founders of Kubernetes basically saying, it doesn't tend to look good.
No, that's interesting. And I mean, I don't know. I'm curious what ones they were talking about before. Oh, look at that. We have the font of knowledge here. Microsoft was the biggest buy in the gaming company. Look at that.
Yeah, Blizzard. That's correct. Yeah, that was 70 billion. Yeah, that was a big one.
Sorry about my coughing. No COVID, just normal. Because Broadcom does this thing. They've done a few security things because they bought CA, and then CA had Veracode, and then they sold Veracode away for like 950 million to like a holding company. Probably the best thing that could happen to Veracode, actually. So yeah, I know when they first bought CA, I was in a competing company to Veracode, and we all went, "Yay! That's one competitor gone." Awesome.
Yeah, I think they're still going to be around. Like Waleed said, what happens to the open source projects? Broadcom doesn't really have a history of supporting those, so
yeah,
it's definitely be interesting. Although I did see somewhere that Broadcom is going to rebrand as VMware.
Oh,
somebody commented that somewhere on a Slack channel or something like that. So I don't know what's going to happen, but you got to think they're not just going to absorb VMware and kind of keep the marketing team separate, right?
Yeah, which brand is bigger? I mean, it depends on the market, right?
I think maybe Broadcom wants to get away from their own brand.
Oh, yeah.
Broadcom is just...
Boom, I'm going to pop that up.
Yeah.
Not the guitarist, Carlos Santana.
Yeah, that's true, but it also isn't.
Depends. The second biggest? Who's the biggest? Red Hat?
Well, technically like IBM Red Hat, but they split up the it's still considered two separate companies anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a whole metric thing.
Right. Wow. So this is any other hot takes, or should we move to the second shocking anti-big spender section?
I don't know. I guess there's a bunch of companies that are hiring. Some are firing right now, but Red Hat's hiring.
Well, this is what's been kind of funny. Like this one. Cloud security firm Lacework lays off 20% of their workforce. That is like, first thing I did was write to people I know who work at Lacework and go, "You cool?" Because like when I started at Bridge Crew, I was like 50-50. I had my two offers. One was Lacework and one was Bridge Crew, and I went Bridge Crew, and now I'm like, yay. That was lucky. But I think the really serious tech people aren't gone. But I don't know what's happened, because if you lay off 20% of your people, and yet 85% of your company was hired during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think you tend to see this flow, especially big companies will have it where they'll go through a period of growth, they'll hire a bunch, and then as people start to settle into their roles, they look for people who don't really settle in properly or maybe aren't necessarily as useful, and then they get cut out. So, Lacework, obviously during COVID, you get a bunch of money, they just go through a hiring spree.
Yeah.
And then as things settle, they look around and go, oh, well, we need to get a realistic valuation and set up our business properly. Well, there are these jobs that, maybe the value isn't there.
Right.
So it's a typical hire fire phase. I've seen it. The flow.
I'm going to read. It is, but I'm going to read the reason I chose this article, and I'm going to read a thing to you, and you tell me what it means. All right. We have adjusted our plan to increase our cash runway through to profitability and significantly strengthened our balance sheet so we can be more opportunistic around investment opportunities and weather uncertainty in the macro environment.
That's gibberish.
Yeah. What the hell, right?
That's
that's why I picked this article.
We had to cut costs.
What
didn't have to do all that talking.
Hell is that? I might just cut that, put it on a notepad, and anytime somebody asks me something that I don't want to answer, I'm just going to send that back in an email.
Yeah, we'll see ourselves out. All right. I think we're wrapping up the news section, getting into a little tool time. Steve, are you ready?
As ready as I could ever be.
All right, let's do it.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Take it away, boss.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. So this is like a teaser. I have a talk at DevSecCon on the 14th, and it is June 14th, and it's at something stupid o'clock. It's either 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. It's actually in the Japan or APJ time zone. But they very, very kind to put it at the very, very end. So I'm at the beginning of the EMEA zone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They put me on the straddle, so I kind of hit two areas at once. And it was the result of a bunch of research I did about just basically effing with GitHub action workflows. And so the demo, I'm only going to do a teeny bit of it. But let's see, which way am I going? This way or this way? All right. So there's two people here. That's probably not obvious because the koala is very tiny. So this is real me. This is the koala Eurogig, and this is my evil version, Loud Canadian, who has forked this repo. Right. So the idea here is Loud Canadian's a jerk. He's going to try and do things to this awesome repo full of wonderful developers and frankly nothing because I just made it. Right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to set this thing up a little bit and do the default workflow and save it and go, yeah, sure, whatever. Main, start commit, pound that into main because that's what we do here when we're creating new repos, and we're done. And what's interesting about, I don't know like how much people know about workflows, so I'm just going to explain that, but they have a freaking ridiculous amount of power because I just add that in and it runs it, right? Nothing's vetted the workflow. That was part of that commit. There's no
just runs
police. There's no RBAC on the workflow directory. Like it's treated just like any other directory in the repo, and yet it has all the power, which is weird, right? It's a design thing that you could argue has a bit of a problem. The GitHub rules and documentation around workflows, there are a lot of sections that say don't just let pull requests with workflows run. Always check them, but it's in tiny little writing. So if this has got a workflow already and I'm in code and then I'm over here and I want to add a workflow, say I'm a new contributor, so I've never contributed to this thing before. I'm going to actually fetch the upstream because then I'll get the directory. Bing. So say I have a goal. It's an evil goal. But I'm going to start by doing nice things.
Is Loud Canadian brother to Nice Canadian? Actually, Nice Canadian's redundant, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
So I'm going to create a new file, and it's going to call it issue grooming .yaml. We do issue grooming. I don't know if you guys do it in your open source projects, but it's like you search for things that say in our thing, it's like rules or policies. So if something comes in that's meaning I want to add a new rule to this, like for checkout, for example, right? We can have some issue grooming that says, oh, okay, let's add good first issue tag to this because it's definitely something that we want. So there's no issue grooming in the repo yet. So I could be the awesome contributor that does that for them. So I'm going to add the issue grooming workflow. pretend it does something nice, like add something or whatever. But for logging purposes, I'm just going to say, hey, this is the issue. It's in the log. I'm adding this label to it, right? All fancy. I'm going to do a new branch. And I'm going to go through the process of pushing it all back. So yay, like it. Wonderful. Cool. And back and pull request and pull request and pull request. I think I just merged that into myself, right?
Yeah.
A lot of buttons. Awesome. So I'm 2 commits ahead. And I'm going to put back. Issues rock. Oh, my guardrails is going to run. Awesome. Look at that. I should have turned that off. So now I'm back here now, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
Still loud Canadian. It's open. And what's interesting, though, is the action would have run, right? There's a workflow awaiting approval.
Yeah.
It's all looking pretty cool. And I need to approve it.
So you have to sign it to your other GitHub account? Or are you just going to take a look at it? Oh, okay. So it's running.
So now I'm here and I've got the pull request. So now I've got to actually. So you see here?
Yep.
It's
it doesn't
tiny, isn't it?
It doesn't run it right away though.
It doesn't run it right away, but my actions and my workflows are the things that check contributions.
Gotcha.
So I want my shit to run because I probably have some security checks in there and I'm going to have linters. I'm going to have all that stuff that I want to run on a contribution. The only reason I might be a little uncertain is if I come to look at the files changed and see it's actually a workflow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of human engineering going on here for this to the actual warning that says, hey, if this is a workflow, maybe don't do this, isn't here. You have to click through to learn more about it.
Gotcha.
Where it warns you in there's the warning where it says you should be especially alert if it happens to be one of these.
Realistically, you think every workflow change should be kind of flagged like that, right?
It should be here, but it isn't. And I think the shiny in us makes us go, ooh, button. Of course I want this to run.
Yeah.
New contributor. Now this isn't going to run because it's an issue, so it's fine. But you can see that had I sent something more malicious in, it could have been bad. So my other workflow runs, which is cool. My guardrails run, and we're all good.
The other thing too is it flagged it because it's a first-time contributor, right? If I contribute something else and then contribute a workflow, does it still go off?
No. So
That
it only
seems
happens
like a flaw.
first. So now that I've been approved, so now my capability is escalated by a little bit. Now the workflow will run the second time. So I send something innocent in, I get past that, something that wouldn't have run anyway, like issues, and I'm good. So that's the first kind of uh-oh. Now the second uh-oh is that, so I've got my code now, I'm in main, and there's an issue grooming. So what I would do now is loud Canadian is great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start up this, which is my webhook server, which is, if it's too small, just give me a shout, and I will make it larger. That.
Yeah.
The webhook server that's waiting. And let's say this is all running on a self-hosted runner, right? Rather than the GitHub ones, which is for most large organizations is probably going to be the case. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go create an issue now, because now there's issue grooming. Well, actually, I'm going to do it as, even I lose track of who I am. Yeah, this is the right me. The right me. Jeez. I need to go dark mode and light mode. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a little ding, ding, ding. That's a funny title. Not a whole lot of limitations on what I can do in the title, it seems. I can make them pretty freaking big. My issue. I got problems. Let me guess my new issue. Bang. Well, that's interesting. What am I doing there?
Huh.
Go to the actions. It ran it. It's running it because the issue grooming ran because that's what it's for. It's going, oh, is this a new issue? It's queued. 12 seconds run. Do. We wait. And I have all the environment variables for my runner.
Oh no.
Which is bad.
You think it's bad?
That's the first one.
Oh, okay.
So it gets worse after this.
Oh no.
So that was an example. When I was looking around for how many instances of where I saw this, it's a lot that exists throughout the entirety of GitHub, where people are basically, this is a classic AppSec unsanitized input problem.
Yeah.
You have to check that thing before you do stuff with it, and nobody anywhere, as I found in GitHub workflows, is doing that. So if you've got issue grooming, make sure, because echo with the backtick is going to execute whatever's in the backticks and to make it appear in the quotes. I also saw examples where people were taking the issue title and issue description and writing them to like Jekyll or Hugo pages, which means I could write actual code in here. I could have put a pop-up that looks like a GitHub login, which as my description. And when you go to the page where they're talking about, we just got this issue, it's on this page. And when I arrive, it pops up a login and suddenly I start doing credential theft. So that was another one. And then the interesting thing that I found as well, which I'm going to look in settings, that changed recently. It was down the bottom. And then why can I not find actions? Security. Maybe some branches or actions. There we go. Here. So
I have to zoom in a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's do this. All right.
There you go.
So this is workflow permissions. This wasn't here before, as of like April. Pretty kind of weird, right?
Yep.
So let's do this. For example, this is a good thing GitHub did, by the way. I'm going to go in. I'm going to get any repo that I had, like BeerTuber, for example.
That looks exactly like you.
That existed. Actions that existed prior to April. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong thing. General actions. Read. That looks like that. And what's this one look like?
One's definitely zoomed in.
There you go. Read my. So this is what you want.
Yeah.
But this is what, and I've created a whole bunch of repos, and some of them start like this, and some of them start like this, which is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the defaults thing is, this area wasn't here at all. So every single repo that was created from the beginning of time until April looks like this.
You almost think that every project should have some sort of pop-up to say, is this the workflow, that these workflow variables that you want, or workflow permissions that you want, especially like when you start, if you start a new repository, it should be part of the default setup, right?
Yeah. And so this is little, so if you've got a repo that's particularly sensitive and you want to protect it, go check out your actions settings, because these will be slightly different if you now, and you might be set like this, and this is really what you want. So it's important, because like the idea that GitHub Actions can create and approve pull requests, that's a terrible tick box. And yet that is ticked by default. So that's bad. So what can I do with that? Right? That was the obvious thing. Now I'm going to be honest, like that little piece where I stole that from, I think it was Cider Security did a little thing, like did a little article about how they wrote a curl that used the workflow to auto approve their own pull request. And there's a reason for that, because if you go to branch protection, and now I'm too big, and I don't have branch protection on, so I turn it on, and I turn branch protection on for main, and I require a pull request before merging. That's a super good best practice. Do that for everything, right? And you think, great. Other than that, defaults are pretty good. You don't want to click allow, and also you can force push until you create a branch protection, and then now I can't. So there's just turning it on at all is, you got to do that. But look at this little tiny one.
One need two.
Should be two, right? But if you do that, if you just go,
If you're in a team, yeah, it depends. You need I think team of 4 or 5, 2 is good.
But if you just leave the default and do that, go good. I've got branch protection on. I've nailed it, man.
Then anyone who's part of the repository can merge, right?
I can merge myself. That's the argument. I can run, because the GitHub action bot is treated as a legitimate contributor. I can create an action that will self-approve and remove the one approval.
Ooh.
Via a workflow. So if I want to run something nasty in a workflow or submit something, people who are maintainers will come in, see an approved, know they have branch protection, see an approval is already in place, except it's approved by the thing you submitted. It's self-approved, so you can get past it. And that's why they added those other, GitHub added those extra parameters in April, because of that discovery. But they're all turned off by default for everything that was created before April, which means 99.99999% of people still are vulnerable to this attack. So the last thing was, and I'm just going to chuck this one last in there because it is in my cut and paste. I'm not going to do all the super nasty stuff. I'm just going to do one little nasty.
You heard it here, folks. Steve, one little nasty.
One little nasty. So I'm going to, now the scenario is, I've been really kind. They don't know that I just exfiltrated all of their environment variables, right? And I've been a good little contributor. And I want to be a collaborator on here. So over time, I've done the right thing. And now I have, if you look into GitHub Actions and you see what happens to the GitHub token during a workflow, when you aren't a collaborator, there's some things you can do. But when you are a collaborator, you can do whatever the flipping hell you want. It's a very powerful GitHub token all of a sudden. You see a lot of right down the permissions. And that's it. That's like the RBAC of GitHub Actions is, you can do everything. You can't do anything. Those are the two levels. So if I come back here, I view the invitation, I accept, and now I'm a collaborator. So I've worked very hard. I'm a good person. I'm going to create a new file. And now I'm going to auto approve myself. And actually in the middle of this, I'm not only going to get, this time I'm going to grab all the secrets out of the repository. So if you're using secrets to do anything that you want to keep secret, they're not secret. This is like a lesson in don't trust GitHub secrets, essentially. Cool. Yeah.
Not very properly named.
We're doing a branch. And we're going to go back through the same thing I did before. Uh-oh. At least when approval is required. But look, it ran it. Now, is my approval going to work? I don't know. It's still queued. I have to wait. Approved. How did that happen, Michael?
It's crazy.
If you do this, you go, hey, the bot approved it. Who are you? That's strange. And now it's running. So like, because I ran one workflow once, I was able to submit a workflow that now looks approved. I could have submitted all sorts of crazy stuff alongside it. And it's running the thing I just told it. I just submitted without asking
all the secrets.
Without doing anything at all. And there's my GitHub token.
Oh my.
So
All right.
That-
I'm gonna go check all my GitHub repos.
And that's not everything I'm doing in the demo. I do a way, way, way worse thing in the demo on the talk. So do come to my talk. This is a blatant advertisement.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you want to see more wacky stuff, or you want to see the big finale, there's a big finale to this where it's like really bad.
Very cool. When are you doing the next talk?
It's the 14th of June for DevSecCon 24.
Nice.
For you, it'll be on at like 2 a.m. So sorry.
It'll
but
be
for
recorded
everybody
though,
else-
I'm guessing.
Yeah, it'll be recorded afterwards.
All right.
So
I'll check it out.
So there we go. Tool time. GitHub actions are fun.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's right on the hour too. Perfect time to wrap it up. Any last comments? Steve, thanks for the tool time.
Great to be back. I'm excited. The next 2 weeks are going to be weird because I'm traveling all over the place. So we're going to have a really out of place hybrid bizarro. We don't know how we're going to do it session, but be there on the day we decide to do it, whenever that is. We'll let you know.
If hit that little notification bell, YouTube will tell you exactly when we're going live. And you can always check it after on YouTube. The links are in the description if you want to follow along. I'm Mike Foster.
I'm Steve Jaguar.
Happy Friday.